My final slide or question was what types of assistive technology differentiation can be used to further develop social emotional skills in students with autism spectrum disorder? Because in my experience, with kiddos with autism, a lot of the times that's kind of my biggest challenge is helping them build social emotional skills, helping them build relationships with peers, um, and helping them, I don't want to say appropriately respond, but respond in a safe and healthy manner. So I was just curious about assistive technology, especially since this is our class, and how that technology can help those students build those skills. In a study I read, it talked about how for high functioning autism spectrum disordered individuals, uh, they tried to use the use of a remote microphone hearing system with a computerized training program focused on emotion perception. So the intervention lasted for 3 weeks, during which the children completed 9 computerized training sessions while using the amplifiers. And then those children also wore those amplifiers in school to maximize their exposure to the amplified hearing, to get used to it, and to help with any sensory issues that might have occurred. This combined approach aimed to improve social perception abilities and auditory processing for children with autism spectrum disorder. So, for individuals who had the amplifiers, they also had to identify expressed emotions in a series of 24 facial photos, choosing from emotions such as happy, angry, sad, afraid, surprised, disgusted, and neutral. Participants listened to audio recordings of a statement and selected one facial photo out of the six that matched the emotional tone of the statement, which I think is really important. Um, in my experience, a lot of times with my kiddos who have autism, tone is definitely not something that they can register as that sarcasm. A lot of the times with the kiddos I work with, they're not necessarily at that stage of development, but you can be silly and you can talk in a way that kids know, like, oh, wait, you're just messing around, you're joking. But with my other kiddos who are like that, I can be like that. And unless I'm doing a physical action with them, like, for example, like doing jumps with them or um, just being more expressive with my gross motor, then so my facial expression, I can get them excited and into it. But if I'm making a silly face or I'm expressing something or trying to have a silly tone, there's very much a lack of registration that's what I'm doing. Additionally, with this computerized training, students had to do a social perception pair matching task. Excuse me. Which was very similar to the face matching task, but this time they chose from 4 photos depicting scenarios of 2 people. They used the character's facial expressions and body language to match the emotional tone of the audio recording. And these tasks were designed to improve the children's ability to recognize and interpret emotional cues in both facial expressions and vocal tones. This specific study concluded that there were marked improvements in the social perception abilities of children with autism spectrum disorder, and often it brought their performance in line with their neurotypical peers. And some additional research that I reviewed and looked over. Um, sorry, my fiance walked in. I had to reset. Anyways, um, in additional research that I reviewed, it talked about social competence and emotional management, and it talked about generating solutions to social conflicts, and positive social interaction. So it talked about using computer-based interventions, where you are showcasing these abilities or showcasing um, a chance for students to perceive those things and further develop their own skill of um, those social interactions so that they can have a better interpretation of them. And I thought this was really interesting because a lot of the times my interventions with assistive technology are communication related because a lot of my kiddos with autism, in my experience, have very low vocabulary or are non communicative, or they're beginning to develop their vocab. So they almost always have had to use a communication device. So I thought these two, uh, two articles that I researched were interesting because it talked about interventions that were a lot deeper than I was expecting about social emotional skills, and how to build those skills, especially in individuals as they are older. I just thought that was really interesting and a different way to look at it because my experience isn't that, and I do understand that that is a little more challenging with my age level, but you can definitely show like emotional expressions and faces and whatnot, and try to help them in that and guide them in that practice, but it could very much not be to the level of what was conducted in these studies, which is why a lot of the studies um, were with mid-level functioning individuals with autism and high functioning individuals with autism. Currently, I would say my four students are like lower to middle level, and a lot of that comes from the fact that they have very much a lack of communication and their reactions and ability and inability to self-regulate.